Hello, greetings. This is your first feedback video. Destinaw. I'm just gonna say Destinaw. Um, Welcome to the mentorship. I'm gonna just give feedback whenever you ask for it. Basically, I'm gonna try and guide you along the way with whatever goals you have. You said that this is for an animation project for a novel you wrote. So it's going to be a film adaptation. Basically, eventually, you want to make games as well, but all that in time. Okay, right now, I think it's chapter by chapter animations. You figure you're going to need concept art for the characters, props, and environments. Correct? Yeah. The novels and questions are fantasy based loosely on the history of the three kingdoms of Korea. Cool. It follows the journey of Kim Chun Chu as he strives to become the king of the Silla Kingdom. Okay. So you posted this image in your work in progress. You wanted to try to hand it interior concept and you need it for the personal project, but you don't feel like you got the perspective right. You're wondering, how do I get the perspective for a cutaway? So you didn't get the perspective right. To confirm your thinking, there's a few things going on here. First of all, you have kind of painted yourself in a corner, literally. Like the corner is here, it's like being cut off. You've drawn yourself over the boundary of the image, so you shouldn't do that. One thing you can do is just, I don't know what program you're using. I'm using Photoshop right now, but just, crop it, give it some breathing room. Like, the whole thing should have some breathing room. And when I say breathing room, I mean like enough space to visually be comfortable when you're looking at it. Like, so I'm going to extend it that much, right? Let's just do a new layer. Okay, so there, it's got much more breathing room. It feels a lot better in terms of like the space going on. You got to pay attention to vanishing points. I don't know if you've heard of those. I don't know your knowledge in art yet, right? So if you're trying to do something in perspective, you need to have vanishing points, which are the points where the lines converge in perspective. So let me just get the line tool out here, and let's see, how big is that? So right now, if I outline your walls, you don't have a vanishing point on this wall. And this wall, you sort of have a vanishing point. It's not really. It kind of goes to a vanishing point, but what you notice is that both of the lines go different ways. Normally, the vanishing point would be along the same horizon when you're doing this. So you just need to redraw it from the ground up. You've got this, the floor. Yeah, just start off with some vanishing points. Okay, so let's get rid of this real quick. Let's tone this down all the way. Hey, my dog's growling at something. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, so if you zoom out, you should consider it like this. This wall is gonna kind of go off this way. It depends on the concept too. Like, is this drawing supposed to be an actual background for your animation, or is this drawing just supposed to show what the background is going to look like? Are you building this in 3D? I don't really know, but that's something to consider. If you're building it in 3D, you might consider drawing this a little differently. Okay, so I'm just see these lines here, this line, these two lines need to kind of converge to the same point. So something more like that might be a little too. Let me do a new layer. Keep in mind, I don't normally do environments. I'm more of a character person, but something more like this, and then the last line would be like yep. Something more like that, right? And then once you have those guides set up, you just need to match those guides. There's specific ways to do this where, like, if you really want to draw this in perspective properly, you can like divide this in half, and then this is like your center point for like oops, this is your center point for like things in the middle, and then you can divide this in half, this in half, and then you get the center point. This is how to divide the room up, right, into like to a perfect spacing. Okay, so you got the center points, and then you have like a door, or like not like a door, like a gate or something here. That would even be one more center point. It looks really complicated, I know. It's just the method for doing this just involves these crosses. Okay, so then you got to think about this line here. Take that line and kind of bring it up to where the gate is, and then you've got I'm trying to again this line here, take it to there. Okay, and then this line, take it up there. You can skew it just a little bit to match where it connects to the vanishing point. I'm shorthanding this, so keep in mind that, like, obviously I'm not breaking down how to draw in perspective perfectly. I'm just trying to show you how I would do it. Okay, so tone all this down. And then do new layer. And then if you have you basically got your walls here. Again, I'm going off the screen. We're gonna have to fix that, right? We don't want it to cut off the screen. Okay, so there are your walls in perspective. Your other wall, you would just extend this line past this wall, and then take this and kind of, if you do a parallel, it's not actually accurate. You need to kind of slightly skew it, because technically the lines are converging at a point in the distance. right? So that's kind of more accurate version of what you would want to do. All that said, I never do this. I never do this method. Like, this is like very technical, and to me, very boring. I block it out in ZBrush, which is a 3D program. So I would block out the whole scene in ZBrush, save the camera angle, and then trace over it. That's how I would do it. You can do the same using Blender. Blender is a free program online. You can basically do a quick intro to Blender. All you need to do is make a rectangle for the floor, make a couple rectangles for the walls, make one arch. You can figure out how to make one arch, or even if you don't make an arch, you can make these like slabs. You could just do the slabs in Blender, so you've got like 1, 2, 3 slabs, and then you understand that you divide the slab and turn it into the archway, by your drawing technique, right? That's something to consider. So I'd recommend trying 3D for sure. Doing a 3D draw over. Every environment artist I know does a 3D draw over. Drawing completely from perspective, like grids, is very admirable, but it might just save you a bunch of headache if you just do a 3D block out. So I'm just trying to show you the way you would do it if you really wanted to draw it from scratch. You would do it like this. You would divide it, and then you do the X's to divide, like I showed you, and then you have it. Of course, wrong thing. I shrink it, right? Because you don't want it, like I just said, you don't want it to go off the page. So you shrink it, and then you have your base. This is just the base, right? So, and this line, I can already tell this line's off right here. That line's off. But I think if we fix it, that looks a little better. This is just the rough, right? So you do your rough block out. Once you get the rough, so you got, let's see. That's your pathway. And then you've got 3 archways. So you probably want to divide this in half. Actually, the way to correctly divide it in half, again, is to do X. Then you get your center point. Now it's divided in half. So that's where your first arch would go. And then you want another arch, probably like halfway between that. So then your next arch would go here. You just draw the squares where they should go. You need to draw them in perspective. I'm not drawing in perspective right now. I'm just trying to show you quickly what to do. And then this one in half. And then again, draw the square. Draw the square. And then you follow your guides you did previously. And you start, let me do another layer with blue. You start building up your archway. Hold on. It's easier to see if I do it thicker. And you repeat that probably fix it. And again, fix it, the height. So that'd be more of an in perspective version of what you're doing. But ask yourself this. do you need the concept drawn like this perspective because you're going to make it in 3D? Or is this literally going to be a background for the animation? Like, are you going to be animating people? Um, are you going to be animating people like walking in perspective down this hall? Is that how you're going to do this? Do you need this image drawn this way? Um, if it's for your own project and this is a concept for you to follow, you might not need to draw it in this perspective. If this is supposed to be straight up just like an environment for you to draw later for the animation, maybe what you did is enough. Like, let me go back to what you did. Maybe what you did here is enough because it's just the idea of what's supposed to be in the scene. And tells me a lot. So from what I'm gathering is there's patches of grass, there's these 3 archways, you got these mounted heads. So that's the scene, right? So I understand what the scene is. The perspective's not correct, but if this isn't going to be like an actual background, who cares if the perspective's not correct? You're going to probably draw this more flat, right? So you might draw it like, for the actual animation, you might have it like, with the head of the pig thing here, and then the archway is like here, and it's a close-up, and the character is walking like this through the archway. So you're never going to see that angle that you're drawing, right? So like, why draw it? Why even draw it like this if you're not going to see the angle? If you're just trying to understand the space yourself, I think this is enough of a drawing to understand the space. But how are you animating it? Is it 2D or is it 3D? I don't know. These are some questions you should answer. And if you don't know, you should ask yourself, like, am I going to do this in 3D? Am I going to do this in 2D? If you're going to do it in 3D, consider this. If you're going to do it in 3D, maybe what you need to do is draw one wall, and you say it's got a wolf head and a pig head, and then you've got one archway that you draw, and you show the archway this way, you show the archway this way, and then you show the other wall. The other wall's got this opening, and it's got 2 pigs' heads or 2 animal heads. So this breaks down what you need to build in 3D. So you build like this times 3, right? 3 of those, and then you got the floor. So you draw the floor from up top. There's the grass patches. They kind of start breaking down what you need to build in 3D. This is more convenient concept art for someone that's going to build stuff in 3D. And then if you need to show them like a quick doodle of like, it's going to look something like this. It doesn't matter if the perspective's off because they just need the flat, like what are the assets going to be, and then they'll build it. If it's you building it, then you just need to explain it to yourself. So that's one of the things you got to think about. It's like, what level of detail do I really need for this? And is this view going to be seen ever? Like, are you trying to present this in a pitch to sell the idea to someone else to fund? Maybe selling this location in a pitch could be better if you change the camera angle to make it more like dynamic and interesting, right? This to me looks kind of like a schematic of like the room. Like, it's like, look, this is kind of like the space is supposed to look like, right? But if you're trying to sell the space in a pitch, maybe you want to draw it like in a more like cinematic way, where it's like, maybe you've got let me switch this to maybe you've got it like the archway, and then you've got like the pig's head in the dark staring, and then like the archway, and it's like this long hallway, and it's like maybe that's a more interesting view for the pitch than the isometric one you're trying to go for. I don't know what program you're using to draw. My last thing to leave you with is let me just turn this off real quick. I'm going to switch to my iPad. I'm on my iPad right now anyway, but I'm switching to like an iPad program. Okay. Okay, file, new. Let's just do screen size. Okay, so let's just transition it back. Okay, so this is Procreate. Let's say you're trying to draw the environment in Procreate. So you've got the basic idea is like it's like a room like this. And there's a wall, and there's like an opening, and then there's like the other wall, right? And it's got the archways. Okay, so in Procreate, you draw it out real quick like this. You could just draw out the basics, and then what you can do is just go to Canvas, Drawing Guide, turn that on, Edit Drawing Guide, switch to Perspective, and then you click the vanishing point, you tap, there's the vanishing point, and you line up these lines generally with the lines of your image. So right here, that's looking close, right about there. That looks pretty close. So that's like basically how my image is lined up. And you'll notice there's another wall, which means there's two vanishing points. So tap another one and just try and line it up against the wall. That's pretty close. Trying to see if it's, I think that's closer there. Now you notice how the vanishing points in the app, they're against this line. They both are jumping off from the same line, right? That's how it works. You have like a horizon line, and the vanishing point goes to the horizon line. Now this one's tilted a little bit, but that's okay. It still works. So you have the vanishing points. You take a new layer, say drawing assist, and then let me just get like a black, and let me just get like this pencil. And so now let's redraw the room with the drawing assist on. So I'm going to take my pen, I'm just going to draw, and it snaps my drawing to the grid for me. Obviously it was a little off, so it'll correct it. So now you can see where it was off. Oh, actually, this needs to go all the way down here. And then this wall, oops. Oh, see, this is what. Remember when the horizon was tilted? We gotta edit the drawing guides. The horizon was tilted, so how to solve for that? Do a third vanishing point, and then you want those lines to be kind of lining up with. I think that's good. Okay, so there you go. Third vanishing point. So then this corner is going to go up to here. This corner is going to go up to here. It's going to go across. And then you divide. There's your other wall. I don't know if you have an iPad, but Procreate's like $12 on the iPad. So Procreate's a very powerful program for a very affordable price. Oops. See, you just undo it if you mess up. And then this one goes all the way here. So there's your room in perspective. And this is like super accurate because the computer is basically making me do it accurately. This is a little off. There we go. So there you go. The floor if you wanted the floor elevated. And then you could draw from there. And then again, like with the archways, like if I snap this, I can just, let's find the archway again. We want the archway in the center. Okay, so let's say one archway is like right here. It's snapping to the grid for me already. So this is how I draw the archway. You just draw the rectangle first. Okay, and then let me turn off. Let me do a new layer. And I'm just gonna like, and it'll snap to where I want it to go. Right, and then so now you can see where it connects. Oops. I'm messing it up. Okay, so there's your archway. And then, you know, these are all the basic lines, right? You go on top of it, and you would, you go on top, and then you tone this down. You could turn off this first layer. So now you just got this established tight layer of correct perspective, and then you do your final lines on top with, like, let's say an inking brush or something. And then you go in and, like, you, like, draw in the bricks. But remember, the brick lines need to still follow the perspective. But you don't need the perspective guide to make it, you know, exactly correct. You want some variation because, like, it's like old ruins, right? Think about that. If it's old ruins, you don't want it to be perfectly aligned. Anyway, so that's how you do it in Procreate. So that's if you really want to do hand drawn, maybe do it in Procreate. Let me turn this off real quick. But yeah, so hopefully that all makes sense. I really recommend a 3D package if you're gonna like really want it to locked in perfectly. Just do it in 3D. But think about those questions I asked you, like, what is the view for? Why that isometric view that you're trying to draw? You know, who are you showing? Is someone else going to build the scene too? Think about that. Like, if someone else is going to build the scene, then, you know, maybe that isometric drawing, what you did is enough, plus the call outs of the side, the front, the back, all that stuff. But yeah, cool. Hope that helps. Hope that makes sense. Come back with those answers in the Discord, and we could talk about them and see where you end up. Cool.